He goes through narrations found in our literature. We arrive at one of the narrations which talks about the concept of patience, talks about the concept of sabr. And when we talk about different ways, when we come to the mosque or the Husayniyah, in terms of increasing our spirituality, in terms of increasing our faith and our patience, in order to persevere in our daily lives, in order to strengthen our Islamic beliefs and to gain blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a lot of the time what we get told is that patience is the answer and patience is the key in order to achieve this. We're told that when we have patience and when we master this concept of sabr, then we can grow and we can flourish, and that this is better for us. One of the Maraja, Grand Ayatollah Ja'far Subhani, came out with a statement one day, and he said that patience and perseverance, tolerance and forbearance, all of these things are very similar. These are common traits of the world's most successful people, and patience is the quality of a very highly esteemed and respected man. So today, inshallah, we'll talk about the merits of having patience, specifically the benefits of having patience through the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, through the words of the Holy Prophet, and through the A'immah and Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. And we'll see that the concept itself of patience is one which can not only benefit us spiritually, in an Islamic sense, when we are faced with religious matters and when we're thinking spiritually, but also in everyday life when we are faced with common scenarios, whether that be in the workplace or at home or in schools. Now the hadith which is examined by the Sayyid is mentioned by Shaykh al-Kulayni, and in this hadith he says that he heard from Abu Basir, heard from Abu Abdullah, meaning of course in this sense Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, saying that a free human being is free in all circumstances. Should any misfortune or bad event befall him, then he deals with it with sabr. And if calamities or if difficulties strike him, then they do not shatter him. If he is taken captive and he is subdued, then he turns this hardship into ease, as was the case with Joseph, the truthful and the trustworthy. His freedom saved him from harm, even though he was enslaved, even though he was subdued, and even though he was put in prison and locked away. The darkness of this pit, the dread and the fear and whatever befell him did no harm to him, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favoured him and made the insolent tyrant, the evil ruler who had been his master, his own slave. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Joseph his apostle, and through him he was merciful to a people. In this way, patience is followed by good. So be patient and reconcile yourself to patience in order for you to be rewarded from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the hadith. So to try and break it down, Sayyid goes on and he discusses a little bit about what this hadith actually means. He goes on to tell us not just what it means, but how we can utilize it in our lives as well. And he talks from the perspective of different other scholars of Islam. Shaykh al-Tusi, one of our great scholars, has said that sabr, patience, means restraining the self, means restraining yourself from agitation when you are confronted with something undesirable. Meaning that if something unpleasant comes towards you, you are able within yourself to have the strength to hold back from releasing your true emotions of negativity towards it. Another of our great scholars, Shaykh Ansari, says that sabr means restraining the self from complaint about hidden anguish. Meaning that if you have something hidden within you which is causing you pain, which is causing you grief, sabr means restraining yourself. What he intends to say is that if you have this hidden anguish, hidden pain, he doesn't mean keep it to yourself and do not share it with anybody else. He means that you need to have the strength within yourself to be able to control it and to not let it wash over you. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, therefore bear patiently as did the messengers endowed with faithfulness, bear with patience. If the Holy Prophets who were tasked with something so mighty as being told to deliver the message of one God unto the whole of humanity, unto all of their communities, if they were faced with such a great task and they overcame this with patience, then this is a testament that with the small challenges we face in our lives, patience will help us overcome it with ease. In terms of this verse of the Holy Quran, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, goes on, as he so often does, and he builds upon this verse of the Holy Quran. He explains it to us, and he says that the sweetness of success erases the bitterness of patience. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what Amir al-Mu'mineen did, and what they showed through this, is that of course patience brings about hardship. It's not easy to be patient. As you can imagine, Amir al-Mu'mineen is one of the best examples to use when it comes to patience. Through having the Khilafah stolen from him, from witnessing the abuses that took place towards Sayyidah Fatima, and knowing what was going to happen after his death, not only just seeing what happened after the death of the Holy Prophet, you can imagine that an individual who was not Amir al-Mu'mineen, someone who was not Ma'soom, someone who was not designated as a guide to humanity by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would have crumbled seeing all of these events which took place. However, being Amir al-Mu'mineen himself, he was blessed with this opportunity to have the patience within him in order to set an example that no matter what happens in your lives, patience will guide you through it. Of course, if you ask any Muslim, Shia, Sunni, whatever, about the status of Amir al-Mu'mineen today in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will tell you that he is in the highest ranks of Jannah. In fact, some of the narrations which talk about the status of Amir al-Mu'mineen are so great that I'm scared to even say them on the minbar. What we're also reminded of is that patience is a merit, patience is a very important quality which can bring about sweetness. So although patience can be difficult and bring about hardship, it can also bring you sweetness and success. Again, this can be seen through the words of the Holy Quran itself, which states that indeed with hardship comes ease. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when talking about this verse of the Quran, doesn't just say it once, He reiterates it twice. Something which is quite rare in the Quran, one after the other, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to say something and then to say the exact same thing after it. Meaning that if Allah tells us that when there is a hardship that you face, after it will come something better, after it will come ease, He truly means it. Otherwise He would not reiterate it twice. Otherwise He would not even say it one time. The one and the person who has patience, therefore, will refrain from complaining to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will refrain from complaining before other people, and he will refrain from getting angry and showing his physical unease at difficulties whenever they face him. A person who does this and follows these qualities is known in Islam as one of the patient ones. The person who is not patient in the face of any misfortune which comes his way and does not call out to and supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance is regarded as being one of the impatient ones. And this is something that we don't want to call ourselves. Just as we don't want to fall into categories and titles such as being of the hypocrites, being of the ones who speak badly to their parents, being of the ones who do not remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly, we also don't want to fall into the category of being one of the impatient ones, because this is something which is regarded in the same esteem as these other bad qualities. We know then that in the face of difficulties, whenever calamities may befall you, that a truly patient person is differentiated and is viewed differently by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than an impatient person, because the patient person is submissive in the face of these problems, and this is what brings him success, not just in this life, but in the akhirah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, what have the Imams said about patience? We already went over what the Holy Quran says and what Amir al-Mu'mineen says. However, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, in one of the hadiths found in Al-Kafi, says that patience is to the faith what the head is to the body, meaning that the body will perish without its head attached to it, and so when sabr or patient goes, then his faith will also leave him. The hadith is pretty simple in itself. Just as if you cut the head off of a person, that person will no longer be alive. If you cut off sabr and patience within yourself, then your faith, your religion itself will go away. The person who constantly complains and is afflicted by any tragedy which happens to him, and he falls into this pit of despair, is risking himself from being removed from the fold of Islam. Not in terms of physically saying, I'm not a Muslim anymore, But when someone despairs in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His mercy, and when he doesn't have patience in everything which befalls him in this life, then Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam himself said it. And when Amir al-Mu'mineen was asked about faith, when he was asked about Iman, he said that the structure of faith is supported by 4 pillars. The first one is patience, meaning the most important thing in terms of faith is to have patience. Secondly, conviction, belief, strong conviction. Third, justice. And fourth, jihad, struggle. Then he goes on to explain further that patience itself, being one of the pillars, is also comprised of 4 different qualities. The first one is eagerness. The second one is fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third is piety. And the fourth is anticipation of death. Meaning, to have patience, you need to have these 4 things along with it. So, whoever is eager and whoever wants to go to Jannah and whoever wants to go to paradise, then he will ignore any evil temptation which comes his way. Whoever fears the fire of Jahannam, who fears the fire of the hell, will abstain from any of the sins which he does. Whoever practices piety will easily bear any of the difficulties and hardships of the life of this world, and whoever anticipates death will hasten to perform good deeds, knowing that death is around the corner at any given time. One of the important messages that I want to give today is one sentence, and it is that the survival of religion, the survival of Islam, lies in patience. Especially today, you'll see that this is an important statement. This one line, this one sentence shows the necessity of having patience and of being one of the patient ones. And let me explain to you the story behind this sentence. One day, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, accompanied by Amir al-Mu'mineen, had been heading towards the masjid when they came across a beautiful lush green garden. And when Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali, witnessed this garden in front of him, he said, Ya Rasulullah, this is such a beautiful garden, this is so nice. Look at all the way the plants are, look at the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made this beauty befall on our eyes. And the Holy Prophet responds to him and he says, Ya Ali, your garden in paradise will be so much nicer than this. They continue walking on. And in the course of their walk towards the mosque, they pass by 7 different gardens. And on each time they walk past the next garden and the next garden, they have the same conversation. Amir al-Mu'mineen says to him, this is such a beautiful garden. The Prophet replies back, your garden in Jannah will be so much more beautiful. At the end, when they pass by all 7 gardens, the Holy Prophet takes Amir al-Mu'mineen into his arms and he embraces him and he begins to weep intensely. Not normal crying, he begins to sob and weep in his arms. Of course, seeing the Holy Prophet weep in front of him, Amir al-Mu'mineen also starts crying. And when he sought to know the reason for the Holy Prophet breaking down in tears in front of him, he said, tell me the reason why you cry. Tell me the reason why, after walking past some gardens, you've decided to break down in tears. And the Holy Prophet replies to him, I suddenly remembered the hatred which has taken root in the hearts of people towards you, and the problems which they shall make apparent after my death. So Imam Ali alayhi salam asks him, Ya Rasulullah, what should I do? You're telling me that after your death, there's going to be such hatred in the hearts of people that they will come and they will cause so many different problems to me. What should I do? Rasulullah says 2 things to him. Patience and fortitude. If you fail to exhibit patience when this happens, then you shall fall into far greater difficulties than just the people being against you. Meaning that it is one thing to have the people against you, and it is one thing for the people to stand against you. But it is a whole other thing for you to lose this patience and for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to stand against you. The Imam says to the Holy Prophet, do you fear the destruction of my faith and my religion if I don't have this patience? And the Holy Prophet replies, your faith and your religion's existence lies in patience, in sabr. Another example we can use when we talk about patience is the example of Bilal. Bilal being one of the Sahaba of the Holy Prophet But before he was one of the notable companions, before he accompanied the Holy Prophet, he was a slave. And he was owned by various different people. But after he embraced Islam, after he took his Shahada, he began to suffer greatly. There was a lot of hardships which befell him at the hands of his owners and his masters. And after some of the people in Mecca began to become Muslim, again their lives also became unbearable due to the difficulties which were faced. Some of them, due to the amount of suffering which they were faced with, even backtracked from their new religion. However, Bilal, exhibiting great patience, increased his steadfastness in his belief in Islam and his commitment to the religion of Islam. And as such, his owners began to in turn treat him even more harshly than they had previously. And they increased the torture which was forced upon him. Abu Jahl, for example, used to force him to lie on his stomach on the hot plains and the hot sands of Hijaz. And he would put his head down against the sand, so much so that it's narrated that even his brain was at the brink of boiling point. The burn marks were clear on his face and clear on his head. And he would say to him whilst he was in this position, deny the Allah of Muhammad. Deny the God of this man that you call Muhammad. Do this and you will be free from all of these pains and all of these difficulties. However, the only thing that Bilal would reply to Abu Jahl was Ahad, meaning Tawheed, meaning I believe in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I believe that no matter what you put me through, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be on my side. And the Prophet witnessed this incredible patience and this incredible fortitude in Bilal. And as a result, he sought to go and free him. Now Bilal, as a result of his patience, in the face of this torture, in the face of this persecution for his belief in Islam, became free, and he entered into the company and into the services of Rasulullah. One of the most commendable, one of the most sought after things that we could ever hope for in this life. And leading on from this, he even became the Mu'adhin, and he even became a legendary figure in Islamic history. Now some would say that if it wasn't for the sabr that was exhibited by Bilal, would he have reached this status in Islam? Would the Holy Prophet have noticed his suffering? Would it have been known around the community in Mecca at the time? The chances of this are not likely. Meaning that Bilal became a servant of the Holy Prophet and became a companion of the Holy Prophet simply due to his patience. Again in Al-Kafi, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that whoever of the believers that bears patiently with the tribulation that befalls him has the reward of 1,000 martyrs. It was the other week when I talked about the concept of martyrdom, the concept of becoming shaheed. We talked about how important this is. We talked about the reward that a shaheed has. We talked about the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls the shaheed one of his distinctive friends, not one of the regular friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Sadiq says that if someone deals with a difficulty with patience, then he has the reward of 1,000 of these martyrs. That is 1,000 times over that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares that person to be one of his distinct friends. And of course in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He loves those who have patience. He declares that those people who have sabr in their hearts and use it in difficult times are those who are loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Muslims, this is the number one priority for us, no? This is the number one thing that we hope to achieve. To be loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be accepted into Jannah, to be of those who He is proud of for committing to the religion of Islam and the commandments of Islam. In chapter 16 of Imam Khomeini's explanation of 40 hadiths, he mentions that if you have faith in Allah, and you believe that all of the affairs in this world lie in His mighty hands, then you will not complain before Allah of the hardships of life and of the adversities that strike you. Rather, you will accept them willingly, fulfill your duties, and thank Him greatly for His bounties. The stage that we are at is that if a difficulty comes to us in our lives and we are faced with some bad situations, whether that be deaths in our families, whether that be when we look at what's happening around the world and we see thousands of innocent people being martyred, even something as great as this, we complain sometimes and we say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why would Allah do this? What is the meaning of it? Sometimes people even reach that point where they despair in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These people are at a different level from the patient ones. The patient ones are those who, when a difficulty befalls them, they thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. But how many of us in this room can say that we have done that? When one of our relatives becomes shaheed, or when one of our relatives dies, how often do we go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we say, thank you, Allah. I trust that whatever you have put on this earth and whatever is in your plan is right. And I have no quarrels with whatever you decide. The opposite is true. Many of us, when this tragedy happens in this life, we go and we say, why Allah, why have you done this to me? As if you're questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for taking someone away from you. Allah will separate these two people because there's a difference between them. Some of them have understood the concept of patience, therefore understanding the concept of Islam itself. Some of them, however, have not understood the religion perfectly. They have only understood the ritualistic elements of praying and fasting without taking into account some of the most important things. Because as we mentioned, as the Imam says, without sabr, we have no faith. I will end from a verse from the Holy Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, O believers, be patient and excel in your patience and remain steadfast and be careful of your duty to Allah so that you will be successful. And this is the most important verse that I want to read today because it reiterates to us that when we are patient and when we remain steadfast, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises us success. When we look at what happens in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria, and our hearts begin to drop and we become sad and we become full of despair, then we become one of the impatient ones. We should look at what is happening and realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is best. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses what is best. And that those people who may be on the side which some people say are losing, indeed will become one of the winners, inshallah. And this is something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises. When He declares how many times has a small force overcame a large army because they trusted in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they had faith in Allah. And inshallah this is what we will see. And to finish, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant victory to the mu'mineen and the mazlumeen and the mujahideen, and for all of the shuhada, especially in Gaza and Lebanon. Please recite Surah Al-Fatiha after salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.